It's the J.R. Hendrick Texan gentleman dealing with the early life of J.R. Hendrick in a narrated format. Enjoy the fun, my friends. Hello and welcome to the podcast. With me, as always, with an exception when he's gone on assignment, is my alter ego, JR Hendrick. JR, how are you? In many ways better than I deserve. This episode is called JRs One Reason. And it's steeped in a lot of personal and some political history. So we'll see what's going on. Now, the top song of the week of May 10th, 1996 was In the Crossroads by Bone Thugs and Harmony. Oh, I like that song. just hits you right there, doesn't it, JR? True. May 9th, South Africa made further steps to end apartheid. Now, we're going to go ahead and see where this here we go. JR's One Reason. 3 p.m. JR returns to his dorm so that Kristen could study for her Saturday night final. Uncle Carl had requested their presence at dinner that night. 6 p.m. Central. Present at the dinner of Uncle Carl's house was Uncle Carl and Aunt Donna, Grandma Mary, Max, JR, and Kristen. Andrew House called me yesterday. Uncle Carl's like, he's given the big thumb down. He says, Andrew House called me yesterday. He said that HarperCollins rejected your letter for publication. However, Gertrude Agnew has sent it over to Queen Harcourt Publishing. I guess we see what happened, Carl said. Kristen, are you comfortable, darling? Are you comfortable dating my grandson? Mary said, oh, yes. And Kristen's like waxing nice, and hugging JR. Oh, yes. He makes me feel good and warm inside. And Max said, JR, Dad took me to look at the condo, which is near you. It's called Coppergate Condominiums. Kristen leaves town. Why don't you come see me? Carl's like, keep an eye on him. No wild parties. And Mary's correct. Mary's obviously correct. Oh, nonsense. Max is a very good boy. And she's like, your book published yet? And JR's like, just about. Andrew House is getting me a new publisher. Kristen, now that you're finishing school, what are you going to do? And Kristen says, recording contract with Holly Studios. We laid down a few tracks, and then I find a new band. Okay, so now it's 7:30 a.m. JR is in the big, monstrous school of business, and he is in his organizational behavior simulator. JR, one of the students, is working with two teams dealing with conflict resolution. Okay, so it's 8:40 a.m. Eastern. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., Jim is reading his written script of the early part of his testimony before the House Committee on Small Business. That was to take place Wednesday afternoon. 9 a.m. Central. JR leaves his classroom and stops by to check on the fundraising bin he had set up since April 19th for the 1-year anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing. And there was probably in there was somebody in there for the Red Cross teams would be by later on that afternoon to pick it up. He knows that Kristen is in the library studying. So he walks over to the student union to Cinnabon to grab a snack. Okay, so it's 12 p.m. Eastern. Jim had finished reading and rereading his script for the Wednesday testimony before the U.S. House Committee on Small Business and Entrepreneurship. When Betsy sits down with him to watch random news, the top story was an appeal against the Clinton FACE Act that had been passed in July 1993, granting the borrowings for the appeal, granting the hearings for the appeal was Rehnquist, Thomas, O'Connor, Kennedy, and Scalia. All right, 1 p.m. Central. In JR's dorm room, he and Kristen talk. And Kristen's like, well, we obviously can't stay here. And JR's like, well, no, there's no married student housing here. Main Street condominium, there's 3 vacancies there. And JR's like, well, why don't you get your mama put you in one of those, and I'll make sure that Daddy puts me in the family condo, and you and I can be together. And she embraces JR's like, you really mean that, don't you? And JR's like, cross my heart. I'm tired of being alone. So you can tell, JR, you know how it is. You fall in love after being alone for so long, and you find somebody. You're honestly believing that that person is the one. 3 p.m. Central. JR and Kristen go early for Kentucky Bell for dinner before they each went to their respecting separate finals. 4:30 p.m. at Smith Hall, JR is at his advocacy, leadership, and campaigns course. Several causes got a few turns ahead of his, but meaning his group, more police and police retention on the streets would be the last one available. Okay. So 6 p.m. Eastern. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., Jim and Betsy are watching Raynard News, where one of the weekend reporters, anchor Mark Hansen, works on a documentary about the problems with free speech and abortion. 7 p.m. JR leaves Smith Hall with regards to picking Kristen up tomorrow for church. Okay. That's pretty interesting. Thing is, I think, sadly, it's light on the reading. Here it is, May 5th. 5 a.m. Eastern. In the newly formed society room, the 14 Heritage Gate, Jim is sitting there watching Raynard News. The top story, of course, was the April 24th decision of the Supreme Court to hear the hearing of the FACE Act, which, Bill Clinton signed in 93. Anyway, 7 a.m. JR takes Kristen to breakfast at the Holy Spirit Club with Connie, C.V. Coleman, and Stoney and Heather. And Kristen's like, I look at it this way, I don't have to face those sorority girls in the breakfast line today. And Heather's like, hold up. We go to Girls in the Holy Spirit Club. We are the sorority girls for Christ. And Connie said, your boyfriend has joined the advanced class of guys here at the club called the Order of the Dove. And she said, I put him there. You want to know how he gets inducted there? First, we put a Bible in his right hand and a medal with a dove in his left. That means he swears loyalty to God first, and Jesus, and loyalty to his family and the country. And Stoney said, some of us don't better danced, right, JR? And JR's like, well, Brent was too focused on his career, gathering, following in his father's footsteps. Don't get me wrong, Daddy and I are close, but I'm not interested in following in his footsteps anymore. I mean, anywhere near. And CB says, well, that's why I got you and Stoney inducted together. Tim Newcastle and Brent Clark. Tim Newcastle and Brent Clark. They were too immature for the order. Okay. So, 9 a.m. Eastern. Jim and Betsy go to their they're in Arlington Heights Baptist Church. Okay, now 1 p.m. Central. JR and Kristen are back in JR's dorm talking. And she's like, you really love that club. And JR's like, it makes me feel at home. And unlike the men's group at First Baptist. And Kristen's like, well, sorry, JR, but I have to agree with your grandma and my Grammy. Every gentleman in the family is a Baptist. And I think that Grandma would really love you. When the time comes, let's see if Grammy feels that same way, Kristen said, kissing him. I can't give any spoiler alerts because the test comes in the next season, and I'm not going to tell you how. 5 p.m. Eastern. Betsy has made Jim a grilled eggplant dinner. One of the last dinners that they would be having together until Betsy started back in D.C. in August. 7 p.m. JR and Kristen sit at Kentucky Bell for dinner. When Kristen tells him that tomorrow her mother and possibly stepfather will be there to, So this is going to be exciting. Mama and possible stepfather. JR, what was running through your mind? I was like, oh shoot. What now? What are we going to do? Okay, so we're going to go through May 6th, 6:30 a.m. Cinnamon rolls and blueberry muffins are for choice for breakfast. JR sits down with Connie and C.B. Coleman. And C.B.'s like, your girlfriend in here? And JR's like, come on. She lives by a strict code. By her grandmother, I like about how I used to. And CB said, but how I like to see that change for both of you. And Connie's like, CV, could you just give JR a break? His grandma just died 6 months ago. And JR's like, you know what? I wish I could be that way too. But I have to go by how the roots that I'm raised. Now, maybe I'll come back here for lunch if y'all are more in a friendly mood. And Connie's like, nice going, CB. That just sounds like Brent. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. CB is sincere. His motives are sincere, but he's sincerely wrong. So we're just going to go ahead and give him the bell. Yeah, he deserves that. He deserves that. 11 a.m. Eastern. Chevy Chase. Jim is being interviewed at Blake Carter's next door home studio. The show would begin at 3 p.m. Eastern, but Jim wouldn't meet on until 3:30. 1 p.m. Eastern and Central. At Gordon Hall, Carmen brings one of JR's outfits. It's fresh back from the tailor. Fixed and ready. JR would take a bath at 3. And Carmen would take him to the place they plan to meet. Texas Pizza. 3:30 p.m. Eastern. In the mansion front lounge, Jim is listening to the Blake Carter show with Betsy. Betsy heard from the grapevine that Carolyn was flying back to Chicago to help her family manage the Sears family branding session before returning to D.C. in August. Okay, 6 p.m. Central. And, of course, since I'm still trying to get over, JR and I are still trying to get over upper respiratory issues, we're drinking healthy. Grape juice. There it is. We're going to drink some grape juice. And we're probably going to drink every time people start talking about JR's future. In fact, we should have just done this already. Okay. Now, one drink for good measure. Six p.m. JR meets with Kristen and Kristen's mother, Mary Jo Cassidy. Mary Jo was intrigued by JR's choice to go to law school and study constitutional law and public affairs. Mary went on and on by saying that I better find a good way to take care of her daughter. And that she wished that Kristen and I could just stay at the dorms. Okay, so thank goodness we're going to be going to the meat of this real soon. Here we go. Okay, so it's May 7th, 6:30 a.m. Assorted goodies with juice are set for breakfast as JR sits down with Stony Rosen. Miss Collister tells me that the cafeteria shuts down Friday morning after breakfast, Stony said. And Joe's like, well, I got my paper, defense tomorrow at 1, and then I'll leave the afternoon or evening to go pick up my folks for graduation. And so we're drinking regarding the graduation. Anything I'm going to do. And Stoney's like, well, does that include Kristen? And Jared's like, don't worry. Her mother's going to make her walk across the stage too. Her mama will be her name will be pronounced before mine. And so Brent says, it's like, it's hard to believe that we're graduating and we'll be in law school next year. You ever hear from Brent? And JR's like, I don't think Albuquerque is going to be panning out. I guess he's going to get a job. Jesse's going to go get a job so they can come back here and he can find some work eventually. Okay, so it's 9:30 a.m. Central. JR's walking upstairs hallway, Smith Hall, and I don't know if you guys remember, we began season 3. No, not season 3. Season 4 in January of 1995. Robert McPherson, one of JR's instructors. So McPherson calls him into his office, and he says, "For what it's worth, I'm really sorry the committee gave you a downgrade. For what it's worth, Kinghorn is rather pissed all this competition because of Harmon and McKay. Charlie Nation's stupid little joke. Those of you who did not listen around the time of season 3, Charlie Nation is a major thorn in the side in early season 3. And so Jared's like, you mean to tell me he asked the two of them to give me an apology. That man, he ain't got no manners. He ain't no gentleman. And McPherson says, well, Harmon was right that you shouldn't have been, didn't have to be his pawn. For what it's worth, your parents forced you into this. And Jared's like, sure, I'll take care of him. And accept the cum laude. But a simple phone call will take care of the stupid joke. And McPherson's like, well, that's how it started. But it's over now. You were press found for all the wrong reasons. The joke was what started it. But it grew wider. And Jared's like, well, yeah, how do you know? And McPherson's like, look, I'm not in this committee because I'm an instructor. So I'm in no liberty to say. But Dr. Wild tells me that you are finally making it, so you should move on. And Jared's like, well, I do plan on moving on. But I want to know the reason behind the joke. And McPherson's like, how about the joke started when in December 1994, your parents hit the gossip columns. Charlie said, Charlie gave the drugs and took advantage of the gossip and ran away with it. And Jared's like, see, you know more than you think. And he's like, McPherson's like, now, you know I have a family at 10:30. And Jared's like, I understand. But you're starting this dialogue. I just want some answers. McPherson stood up from his desk and began pacing by the window. Okay. Then so? Let's omit your parents being on the gossip columns. And Charlie feeding you the drugs. The fact of the matter is, he came to McKay and Harmon demanding a debate. And then Harmon be forced to give an apology during the debate. McKay was head on. But Harmon no apology. Because he knew that Charlie could not hold his own. and ask for your paper. If I was on the committee, I'd get them to change their mind. Oh, what a relief. JR, it's not really for me. I'd rather resign as an instructor than to have to put up and listen to those two debate until the cows come home. That's why I'm going to ask that they get removed from the committee in 1997 from any advocacy debate that are worth your caliber. My daddy knows. Yes, he knows. And his friends are going to help you get it published, regardless. And you know, some gossip rag is going to pick up an article for a man standing trial for grabbing officials against your dad. But that's okay. I have your back. And Joe's like, have you been talking to him? 4 years ago, you arrived on this campus, and I was a teacher's aide for your professor, Sam Barnett. And I thought you were an immature little racket who would never grow to amount to anything. But he showed me that I was wrong. 2 years later, the dean promoted me to be a news writing and media writing instructor. And you wouldn't have improved if it wasn't for, and you wouldn't have improved if it wasn't for the fact that your father removed that awful Charlie Nation. And I deserve that, Jared said. And McPherson's like, but once he was gone, you did improve. You're going off to law school, which is what I wanted you to be doing after all. You want me to be a politician like my father. And McPherson's like, he's a sick, foolish man. You're twice the man he'll ever be. Sometimes you just don't seem like that. 10:30 is getting close here. And I need time to prepare. All right. I'll let you go. But I'll see you at graduation. Jared, can you put a needle on this? My guessing is that one of Daddy's folks, namely Mike Fields, I'm not going to give any spoiler alerts for the Socratic summer season, because that is something that does pop up. 1 p.m. Eastern, on the second floor balcony, just off the theater, Jim is having a press interview on the Grace Arthur Show, where he discusses his testimony before Congress and his introduction of faith-based resources for small business. All right. 3 p.m. Central. JR arrives back at his dorm after studying at the library for 2.5 hours when Kevin meets him. I'm going back home the morning of the 9th. I want to meet my family in Richardson before getting there back for graduation. Well, after that, call my parents to stay with me until after graduation. And I return back to the ranch with you over the summer. I have an internship there in Midland for Phil Brown. And just like, well, I'm proud of you. Says he'll put me through my first year on a scholarship. I'm going for a 3-year law MBA program. More power to you. Joe's like him. He says, I've accepted the program at the law school for both law and public affairs. And Kevin's like, you know what that turns into right after graduation? Your dad says that after graduation, from law school, you belong to him. We'll see about that, Kevin. Right after graduation, Kristen and I are getting out of here. 5 p.m. JR and Kristen decide to grab dinner at Subway before going towards their last Amistar rally meeting for the semester. And 6 p.m., Carmen picks up JR and Kristen to go to the last Amistar meeting. 6:30 a.m. Central. And JR meets Kristen, and this is a sad scene. Almost like a tearjerker. In the dining hall at Knapp Hall. One more time, she had been verbally, and even almost at some point, physically assaulted by some drunk sorority girl. And she's crying. It's like, I wish you didn't have to go. I can get Mom. Have you stay with us until graduation? And Gerald's like, yeah, Mama ain't gonna have that. And Daddy said last night, no matter what, how hard I begged him, but I can't have the condo. Please. You're making me cry. This is hard, Jared said. I promise. I will beg, plead, steal. And pulling some strings to make sure that I'm with you. Yeah, this is going to be a future time to see the things to come. 8 a.m. Jared and Kristen hug each other and gave each other a kiss, saying their goodbyes. On the way, Carmen takes him back to the dorm. He had been packing. Carmen had been packing his things all morning. 1 p.m. Eastern. Jim testifies before the House Committee on Small Business. Obviously absent was Congressman Bill Hume, who was campaigning in Arlington. 2 Democrats brought some tough questions, but he was defended by Mike Blasio and Bill Archer. Okay, 2:30 p.m. Central. This is where JR, he's in Smith Hall 5. This must be where the final advocacy defense papers is. And the classroom has thinned out. But then the committee with Dr. Harmon calls out the name. Hendrick, Dr. Harmon said. You haven't called to stand to defend of your cause of returning back to conservative causes. Do you need a minute to get through your notes? No, sir. I have it all in hand, Gerald said. So the dean, he stands up. He says, on the issue of abortion, you have found that the legal reasoning for poverty and racism to be faulty reasoning. Is that your final assertion? And JR's like, yes, sir. And then Friedrich McKay looks up and says, and on your assertion of prayer and Bible reading in public schools, you found that the Engel case and Abington Township case had no precedent when you have Everson versus Board of Education to provide education. The President, I do, sir, and I do not stand as corrected. Now, those are recent cases for law. But if you look far back, religious principles, morality, and government should not be separate. Harmon's aide. Harmon sighed heavily and slams on one of his books on the table. Andrew, that's enough, Sati said. Mr. Pierce, you're only a moderator. And I'm a ranking committee. Do you have any questions of Mr. Hendrick? Do you call your theory, your economic theory, based on the economic data you gathered as Reaganomics? Pearson said. I cannot be so bold as to call it that. I just use the economic data along with theories that I have studied all along during my college 8 years And in this contention. Now let's get back to your contention. Freedom McKay said, is it true that your assertion that there should not be no exceptions for the abortion debate, irregardless of rape, incest, or the life of the mother? I find very little, if any, logic at that. McKay says, is this based on logic, legal reasoning, or public good? And legal reasoning will be weighed, and public good. Harmon, the dean said, Hendrick, may I see your notes on abortion? Harmon said. I went down to the main table to hand Harmon the notes. After about 30 seconds, I heard him do a deep sigh. Okay. Your notes are choppy and hardly to be reasoned with. I agree with the committee that it should continue as it should. Be cum laude. Be cum laude. Okay, so 4 p.m. Eastern at Dulles International Airport. Jim is at the gate to meet Clara Luss, and surprise, surprise, Claude, who flew in for business and would stay one night with Jim. Janet had decided to fly to New York today to settle some things with the government, finalization to make their child, who is from China, a citizen. 4 p.m. Central, with Carmen having packed things, Betsy arrives with Mike and Mary Fields to move some things, and Louisa, the family maid, to clean the dorm room. Kevin McDonald is playing the radio as JR takes one last look at a dorm room that he had spent half of his undergraduate days at. 6 p.m. Central. The Hendrick motorcade of cars with Betsy, Mike and Mary Fields taking the lead in Betsy's 1990 Chevy Suburban, followed by JR's 1996 Lincoln ECX. Carmen is driving JR back to the ranch, listening to Christian music. Of course, Mike and Mary Fields are playing 60s bubblegum rock for Betsy because, fresh back from the ranch, it's obvious, Jara. Your mama's longing for your dad. Yeah. 8 p.m. Central. The Hendrick party arrived back at Springfield to a dinner of chili cheese dogs and chili cheese burgers made by Sophie. Greeting them at the ranch was Tom and Diane and Amy Kathleen, who just finished her semester. Reverend Sarge was going to meet them for the graduation in Lubbock. Took him long enough to pick up the dork, Christine said. And Diane's like, Christine, I'd like for you to mind your manners, please. And Uncle Tom says, so Saturday's the big day. And I expect everybody to be there for his graduation. And Christine's like, I'm not going to the dork's graduation. Mom, I told you that Monica was going to be in town this weekend. Then you abide by my... And Betsy's like, okay, then you'll abide by my curfew. You're to be at home at 11. And David is to be out of this house and off this ranch by 11 also. Mom, Christine said, you knew I was coming home. And even with Daddy gone, you're going to have to get used to the fact that this is my house and my rules, Betsy said. Ooh. I gotta say, it's been a while since we've done this, and it needs to be done. Christine, the bell. Okay. Poor Christine. The bell. All right. Let's see what this is. No. Oh, man. It's a graduation. Okay, May 9th and 10th. Good. We're doing good. 9 a.m. Central. With Claude gone to the airport to being a business associate before going back, they're going to go back to Dallas together to continue his business. Jim is in the mansion front lounge tapping away on his laptop for his press statement tomorrow, a written press statement. He had one the day before. Okay, so it's 9:30 a.m. Eastern. So it's in a little patio just off the Oval Office. President Clinton is meeting with Alexander Irons. Give me the latest scoop on Hendrick, President Clinton demanded. Tuesday, he appeared on the Grace Arthur Show, said that the American Republic was founded by people of faith, Alexandra said. Chicken shooters that right mad because I steamrolled over his plan. He's also said to Greg Sanders that same night that even with you and Dole are a bad set of nominations. Score for 1996. But there was still hope for America. The president takes a cigar and puts it in his mouth. He gets the prayers because his wife had to go. But my sources with the FBI say that he's with Clara Luss. I don't think he really wants to cheat. I don't feel sorry for him that he purchased that big mansion to be all alone. Plus, the secretary of one of his consultants, Dave Rosenberg, tells me that Jim is having a private VIP press conference in his home on the 16th. Let him start his damn crusade against me. It's clear to both sides. That this fool won't leave well enough alone. Not to mention, I know his son's graduating in a couple of days. Okay, 1 p.m. Central. Okay, so JR, we cut to the ranch, and JR is in the upstairs den watching a Starflight movie. Uncle Tom and Diane walks in, and she's like, "You're watching Starflight?" And Uncle Tom said, just like his father, he couldn't get into the westerns my daddy liked. So a good compromise for the two was sci-fi, Uncle Tom said. And Aunt Diane said, well, Amy Kathleen's spending the summer with you guys. Of course, she's going back with us to El Paso the day after your graduation to prepare for her marriage to Greg. Then they're going to have a honeymoon in Acapulco, and then come back to the ranch over the summer. Greg's going to be having an internship at First Baptist Church in Odessa. Okay, so it's 3 p.m. Betsy is finishing with helping the cattle graze, and she and Thomas, and get their imaginations. She and Thomas are riding their horses back together to the ranch. And Thomas is like, Betsy, why are you so intensely upset? And Betsy says, inspection coming up with the Texas Department of Agriculture on the 18th. I mean, I just barely got home, and Wesley Clark tells me that Miko is coming to inspect things. And Thomas is like, what's wrong with that? She has a master's degree in agricultural economics from Michigan State University. Plus, she has a business degree from Harvard. She's a likable person. Don't get me wrong. But I feel like if we don't produce enough, I'm screwed. And Thomas is like, Betsy, be calm. Look, what she's probably going to be doing is inspecting the general grounds and looking at the production guides. And I've been filling those out. and making the payments and all that stuff. No, it's just as soon as we get home, I have to look up one more production guide and have that ready in time for inspection. Okay, so it's 9 p.m. Okay, so it's outside 14 Heritage Gate, and security cameras, and sometimes the press scrutiny is all over the place. Nevertheless, Jim and Clara are on the grounds of the estate, frolicking around the fountain. And Claire's like, for the first time, I feel free. Henry and I were working out, but I don't know. One particular social event, he becomes such a bore. He was hard to be around. Want to go with me Sunday night to dinner with Constantine Bush? Jim said, sure. But I have to get back to Henry next Thursday. Some damn doleful president society dinner. But I promise you, I'll be back on Monday the 20th. I'll be back then. I understand that. We have our partners. And I love Betsy forever. But if she keeps away for too long, a man's going to wander. See, that's the thing. Jim's a womanizer. So it's 5 a.m. Central. Betsy and Thomas are giving instructions to the weekend ranch foreman, Kirk, to take some bulls to Junction. And he's going to be taking over the ranch until May the 13th. Okay, so 6:30 a.m. Bacon, eggs, biscuits, and orange juice, all for breakfast. As most of the family sits down for dinner. Christine already drove to school. Good morning, Betsy. How does it feel to be a college graduate, JR? And JR's like, good to have it all over and done. To be back home, Mama. But I still miss Kristen. Oh, what young love won't do, Uncle Tom said. When Mr. Shipman sent your Aunt Diane to Howard Payne, along for her, like you wouldn't believe. But she graduated quickly, and we lived together happily and lovely. And Betsy's like, JR, Carmen is packing the latest suit outfit for you to wear to your graduation. I want you to know that we're leaving at 9:55 today. And scene. I give this 4.5 glasses of grape juice, a book publishers, and also I guess one last look around JR's dorm room. Because you won't see it again. JR, one last look around, because 4.9 glasses of grape juice. One last look around the dorm room, and a meeting with a book publisher. And there you go, folks. Hope you enjoy listening to the J.R. Hendrick Texas and Gentleman. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and become a part of the adventure. This is the James Hendrick Empowerment Network saying until next time, get ready for the rest of the story. It's going to be interesting, exciting, and bumpy from here.